Welcome to this session about Cisco Ace is dead and Microsoft TMG is dead. Very strong headline, I would say. My name is Jeppe Kofoed. I come from F5 Networks, and I'm here to talk a little bit about what's happened in the last half year, actually, within the segment that we are in. Typically, it's the load balancing area. We tend to call it ADC, application delivery controlling, which is more like application-aware networking. So basically, when I was looking at this, I said, okay, I want to try and tell you a little bit what's happening in the area, and because there must be some reasoning behind this, discontinuing of the products. And basically, one of the things that's happened is that, well, we have to rethink how to do networking, and the reason is really due to the virtualization story that has really changed computing in general. Virtualization has made a lot of changes, both on the data centers, how we do servers and virtual servers, how we do cloud, or well, cloud was kind of invented, and all these changes, they also affect how network is changing. You probably remember when VLAN was introduced, having one cable. Now we have virtual logical cables within a single physical cable. And actually, what we're seeing right now is that something that is called SDN is also coming to the appearance now. And SDN is really software-defined networking, where it's more the servers or the application themselves that actually define how networking is being done. And these changes, that's actually, in my opinion, some of the changes that has resulted in the change of those vendors in their offerings in this segment. An example of SDN, or one of the soon-to-come SDN features, so to say, is actually the introduction from VMware of VXLAN and from Microsoft with NVGRE. Those two kind of protocols, that's kind of encapsulation of connections. It's like a little bit like VLANs within our infrastructure. So you make dedicated connections, and these connections, they are defined by the software. In this case, it's the hypervisors themselves. So really, the networking is changing, and we have to adapt to that change, to provide the services that our applications they need to run efficiently. So this is really kind of change in the network world that will affect us. So this is the kind of one of the popular slides. Bring your own device. These devices, they affect the way we do networking, the way we deliver applications, the way we do business. Everybody needs an app. Everybody, feels the sheer pressure of either devices coming into our environment or providing the services to these applications on a lot of these devices, or the apps, so to say. This really kind of results in different ways of delivering the application. So we used to just have a data center, so to say, or it was just a server room. Today it's called a private cloud. But it's kind of the same thing, but still we need to look into how we deliver these applications efficiently. A funny thing, at least for me, I think it's funny, is that these devices is the first time probably that we do not decide what's going to our network. They simply appear there. Just talked to a guy, he was in charge of very big healthcare in Denmark. They have officially 53 smart devices in the network. Well, they've got 35,000 employees, so I think they've got a bit more. Anyway, so what do F5 actually deliver? Well, the green boxes, that's basically the services, the features that we provide, areas. So we have firewalls, we've got access control. We're also doing bring your own device, obviously. Otherwise, we would be out of business. I think so. We've got application delivery controls, that's the load balancing thing. We've got DDoS protection, application protection. So this is really WAFs, web firewalls, SSL, DNS security, and optimization. So we've got kind of all the features. We provide that in a single platform. So to try and make this a little bit easier to, both understand and configure and buy, basically, we have different modules. This is just licenses. So it's a single piece of software. You don't need to deploy new servers, new boxes to create these features. It's just a license that you change. So this is the firewall, the access policy manager, VI, VPN, remote access. Basically, I'll get back to these different products, but this is different license features. So the announcement, well, there was none. Cisco has not, on their own webpage, announced the end of anything for the Cisco A-series. On the other hand, they did a lot of interviews. There was a lot of kind of talk back and forth. What did they actually say? And in essence, what they say was, we will not create new versions. We will not develop on this product anymore. We'll do hotfixes, we'll support it, we'll actually sell it, which is kind of a little bit strange. There's not many people buying it right now because, well, if you don't get support for the next web protocol, it may not be the right choice for a new deployment. So a little bit of a fact sheet. If you take around the same price, an ACE 4710, that's the hardware appliance, and compare it to one of our boxes, again, €1 unit, same price, same everything, except, well, much higher speed, about 10 times faster on connection count, on processing both layer 4 and layer 7 requests, and it includes 10 gig interfaces, so much faster hardware. But come on, we all know Cisco as a great hardware vendor, right? So why don't they make they can create a 4720? Well, perhaps because it's not the only area where they really lack some features. They lack features in terms of the intelligence in the load balancer. So really, if you look at the intelligence, the traffic steering, the ability to cope with an SDN, software-defined network, basically they don't do that. We have a lot of ways of using our products to steer traffic. We have a full proxy. Full proxy is really, we'll get back to that just in a minute, but this is really crucial for traffic steering, DDoS attacks. You saw the SYN attack that Magnus talked about, Cincinnati ACK. Well, try to do that on a proxy. Well, you will do that to the proxy itself, but the server will never see it because you never completed the handshake. This is probably the biggest reason that they dropped the Cisco A-series. That's the modularity. And Cisco needed another box for another feature. So quite often, you've ended up with a lot of boxes. In our box, this is just licenses. So, head on for the GMG. Microsoft did about the same thing, didn't really announce anything back in May, but when Gartner asked them, well, what's the roadmap for GMG? The roadmap was, well, we do not plan to ship any new versions. End of development. So in September, they actually discontinued it, so had end of sale in 1st of December. So what did it actually do? Well, GMG is part of the Forefront series, Forefront GMG and Forefront URG. Typically, the GMG has been used as a reverse proxy, inbound, pre-authenticating users before accessing the services. So this is really, access to a cache array for the Exchange environment. The remote access, URG, is more like remote access for users, so they can get a full VPN access to the internal network. So how do these features, different features, map to our products? Well, we can kind of do all of it in a single box. So that's kind of a good start, I would say. But probably that's not the only reason, or it may not even be the reason. I would rather say that this is some of the problems they've got. So we're talking about this as a device fronting, inbound services, and we need to allow external users access. This is, That's the purpose of this box, to front those insecure services. You do that using SSL. SSL today is 2K, so now they want you to do 2K keys in software. I guess you can search on a lot of websites and say this is not a good idea. So really this is around scalability. Microsoft's got a TMG planning guide. If you go into that, you can type in, I want 1 gigabit of throughput, and I want this and that. The funny stuff, well, I did that. And for 1 gigabit of throughput, you need 4 TMG servers, each with 16 CPUs. Well, it's told to do 2K keys. And then they added on top, you need also a hardware load balancer. Then I thought, well, that's kind of what I do anyway. Why not just replace that? And I think that's really the reason that even though pigs can be made to fly, I've heard that at least, TMGs probably can't be made to fly. And then I haven't talked about DDoS, and DDoS attacks, that's also one of the things happening out there. We just heard that. Web application firewalls, really deep security on the web application itself, another need. They don't do that in those installations. So if you just look at the total kind of footprint of F5, what F5 provides is really a complete solution in terms of hardware. That piece of hardware runs an operating system capable of doing multiple functions. Those functions are license-based. One thing I would like just to stop a little bit around is really the top one, the user community. Because F5 has got so big user community today, I think we've got 50% market share today, that all those users, they have Facebook for Nerds, it's called Dev Central, and in there they really discuss how our products can be used. So quite often this is the fastest way of getting more knowledge of how better utilizing our products, or even getting problems fixed. In February, there was an issue with iOS and Exchange. I don't know if any of you realized that. Okay, so somebody saw that. So what was the problem? Well, somebody made a bug, right? It's as simple as that. I think it was Apple, at least it was Apple that had a fix for the iOS. And the bug resulted really in the calendar application on iOS to go kind of haywire. It sent around 800,000 calendar invites a day per device. That's not really a good idea for any product. Basically, it's a DDoS attack, authenticated, because the guy just logged in. So what happened was really, okay, we've got a problem. These devices, they DDoS our cache servers, bringing down all our Exchange infrastructure. The fix is quite obvious. Well, Apple needs to fix this, but until then, we need to do something. Microsoft advised everybody to turn off all iOS users. So nobody could look into the mails, do any calendars, even the CIOs. That's the one who actually decides for us. So how to fix that? In Dev Central, those guys, they also get hit. So in Dev Central, there was a guy, oh, well, I can see this specific version of iOS. It's got this footprint. Basically, this is the string I can identify. And when he makes this command, the haywire thing, going nuts, he's actually sending this command. So in Dev Central, he just posted, well, create these 2 lines, match this, and match the command, and reject that, and allow everything else. Because that guy who upgraded to iOS, he could still check his mails, send mails. He couldn't use his calendar because, he could check his calendar, but he couldn't do any invites because that feature was actually blocked. But again, we fixed that, just like that. And I think 3 or 4 days later, Apple fixed it. So this is really a reason for having, the ability to quickly adapt to a situation. And I can tell hundreds of stories. Those stories you can read about in the user community on Dev Central. So, another kind of area, firewalling. This is a comment from a Juniper architect. He foresees the true application layer firewall. So what's a true firewall? a true application level firewall. Well, it's not a stateful anymore. It's a proxy. So this is actually what we have. We have an inbound firewall. We have a proxy. When people connect to us, they connect to our service. It's a proxy, and we proxy that to the internal users after authentication or firewalling or logging or whatever we need to do, or floating. So that's the only firewall you need. Well, probably not. There's something called a next generation firewall. In my opinion, this is exactly what Magnus talked about. Have two devices. One for your corporate firewall. You really need this one to get visibility into the access of your users, what they're doing, compliancy, web scanning, content scanning, all that stuff. On the other hand, Magnus also talked about have a dedicated firewall for the inbound traffic or for the hosted traffic, because this is where your DDoS is happening. If you're being DDoSed, well, this guy will be hit, but not your real firewall. And this is actually, what I've drawn here. You've got the next generation firewall, your corporate infrastructure, probably management as well of these firewalls. And then you've got the inbound firewall, the data center firewall. So basically we deliver all these different features, and we deliver that on a single platform. These different features, I can go through each of them kind of very straight and talk about all the benefits you get from them. But in essence, this is, I think the biggest benefit you get here is you get a single place to configure these functions. Now, for example, Magnus talked about this DDoS. He didn't mention, for example, SSL. A lot of the times I get out to customers, the real traffic, the important traffic, that's encrypted. So that's encrypted using SSL. Do you really want multiple devices to decrypt, encrypt, decrypt, encrypt that DDoS attack? Probably not. So having a single place to do multiple things, decrypt it, firewall it, perhaps authenticate users, do firewalling, and then encrypt it to the backend servers. So really kind of having multiple features is rather efficient. Get a much better log view. You have the ability to track. Now you know the user, he just signed in. Over here he did something evil to our application. We have the username and the thing he did. So to configure all this, we actually have something we call an IAP. An IAP really is a way for a vendor like Microsoft to configure our box. So Microsoft has the ability, together with us, to create an IAP that configures Exchange for you. So instead of you finding out how to configure Exchange or Links or SharePoint, actually it has been done for you already. This is really efficient, it's really powerful, it makes use of our products, it makes use of your investment in Microsoft, it makes a best practice deployment, it's a lot of, you get a lot of out of it, basically. In terms of deployment times, it's much faster to deploy, it's much faster to upgrade to a new version of Exchange or SharePoint or whatever it is. Lately, we've seen a lot of interest in the cloud offerings, the Office 365 cloud or the hosted exchange, and those services we actually integrate with directly. So if you have an Exchange environment yourself and want to have it externally hosted on Microsoft, you can use both environments at the same time using our products. So, hardware. Why do we make our own hardware? Well, because it makes sense. You just saw the GMG. They couldn't cope with the traffic. Cisco Ace didn't cope with the traffic. We need this performance, scalability, reliability for the customers. So that's why we have introduced new products. We've got multiple levels. This is segmented per kind of price, list price at least. So this is the entry level, 2000 series. It's got a pay-as-you-grow model. So you can upgrade that one to higher level of performance. And by the way, we beat all the competitors. The same goes in the 4000 series. Beat everybody. Beat everybody. And this is kind of, that's just, I would call it an insane speed. This is, you know, a lot of performance in these boxes. So looking at the virtual editions, we have support for all the major hypervisors, including Amazon Web Services. These boxes, they are licensed per throughput. So you can buy a 200 megabit and then upgrade to 1 gigabit throughput or 3 gigabit throughput. But this is mainly for either for the testing environments or for more like flexible deployments where you want to do cloud bursting or something like that. This about performance, that's a little bit tricky because everybody measures differently. So F5 has actually tried to create this comparative performance report where we have our products and some of the competitors' products and try to map the performance in terms of throughput, request per second, and then based on the different request size, because all these parameters, they actually affect the performance very much. So the reason for this performance report, obviously you can go in and find a specific model and see how fast does it go. But this is more like giving you an idea of what is SSL performance, what is connections per second, request per second, and all that stuff, and give you an idea where you want to be in terms of performance. This is competitors, if you need to know. So, what's coming? Well, we had a lot, I talked a little bit about bring your own device or bring your own compromised device. And what we've been trying to do in bring your own device is really to manage the device itself. This is MDM solutions where you put a pin on the device, you make VPN from the device to the internal network. And really, it's the device itself that's kind of the thing you want to secure. The same goes with F5. I've got an iPad. When I sign into my Exchange account, a corporate Exchange account, I get a policy that asks me to put a pin on my iPad. That's the security, right? You know what? My girl, she's 2 years old. She knows my pin because she wants to play my games. That's not really a good solution. So what we are actually doing this year is doing application management instead of device management. This is a new feature that's allowed in App Store, a marketplace from Google, that allows you to check out basically a real app from the official app stores, wrap it in your own app store, and then provision a single app to that device. Then on the app level, you can put on device, pin codes, time-based access, location-based, geolocation-based access. You can even wipe data for that application rather than the device itself. So this is going to be the next way of doing, not bring your own device, but bring your own app, so to say, to the users. It's coming, I would say, in this, at least in this spring. I think it's in April. It's a software as a service model. And for those applications to connect to an internal network, you need this APM device as the endpoint tunnel. So that was it. Any questions from you guys? Yep.
Can you do anything to protect against DNS attacks?
Sure. One of the products that was over here was a product that is specifically on the DNS kind of area of what we call application delivery. Application delivery is everything from a user opens his browser and tries to locate your site. He's locating your site using DNS. That DNS itself is actually flawed. Magnus told a little bit about this DNS amplification attack, but there's a lot of other attacks within that. And yes, F5 has high performance DNS servers that's also aware of the status of your application itself. On top of that, we also do DNSSEC, which is a standard on encrypting DNS replies, and we do that in hardware again with the performance that our box provides us. So yeah, we do DNS security as well.